Yeah, on.
Two twins. Yeah. My brother is so silly. He's so silly.
But what'd I do?
The moon came out surprisingly early.
Was it because I was shaking my bare buttock on the screen? Did that catch you off guard?
Your ass shaking has gotten a little slow.
Thank God this isn't a visual experience. I mean, we go audio only for a reason.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we're also immune to the Zoom thing that we probably don't think so much anymore about like how we sort of look on it. But I have to admit, when I started the Zoom, by the way, welcome everybody to episode 90.
Yes. Oh boy. 96.
97? 96? 90 something.
67.
Oh, don't say 67, please.
The reason I just said it is number one, I think we're on 95. Number one, I wanted to see if also your children say that. Number two, what the hell does it mean? And I've asked them, what does it mean? And they don't know. They just say it.
No, nobody knows what it means.
Okay. So have you asked your girls?
I've seen the source video of how it started.
Does it have any meaning?
No. It's like their new filler word.
Yeah.
They just say it when there's nothing else to say. Or if there's any reference to a 6 or a 7, and certainly a 6 and 7, then they go 6, 7.
Do you find yourself saying things that they say? And I've actually noticed, you in particular, you used to hate when people said bro, and now you say bro. I assume it's because the kids say it. I'm saying things that the kids say, not to like sound cool, but just you hear it so damn much that like it gets in your vernacular, you know. It's like not trying to sound hip or something, but
so there's different levels of it. And I say bro, which is the adult version of it, because honestly I think it's kind of funny, you know. It's like kind of hippie-ish, you know. Yeah, I have some inside jokes with some friends where like bro is a funny part of it, you know, bro. But what you're referring to is brah, which no,
you don't do bra, no. You do bro.
Right. And very seldomly, very, very occasionally. And usually it's just funny. It's like, whatever, bro. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's usually when we're disagreeing about something related to sports or something super important like that.
Right.
Which right now our big debate is, are the Detroit Lions actually good yet?
Yes.
We were debating that yesterday because our two teams are squaring off, you know, this weekend, the Chiefs and the Lions. So I think we were having a very lively, functional debate on both our teams, which in my opinion are extremely unproven. But this Sunday will be fun. We're going to watch it together.
Yeah, we absolutely will watch it together.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah,
find somewhere to watch it, right?
Some establishment. Yeah.
But anyway, there's I think we just covered about 5 different topics.
Yeah.
Going back to, do I talk like the kids talk? No, you will never catch me doing the lingo, but certain words like bro have become a little bit more part of the vernacular. And
your daughters say bro, don't they?
I say bra. I say bra.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But until I set the rule of like, no, it's dad. Like you can't call me bra.
Well, calling you that would be a bridge too far.
I like when girls say it to each other. It's funny as hell.
I think so too.
Whatever, bra, you know?
Yeah. I think it's funny. I fully support it. Well, these things fade in and out so fast. The other thing you're realizing, you become parents, like you get a sense for how quickly these fads and these things, like it's almost now, especially in the current universe, it's like almost like 2 weeks. If something's cool, like already like Crocs I was looking at, I read all this research for work about like the Gen Z and stuff. And it's like already like Crocs are like not cool anymore. Right. Or like, skinny jean. Like now it's like baggy's back.
Right.
Which encourages me, buddy, because maybe we're headed back into a grungy 90s type vibe. I don't know.
What a segue, because we are traveling back to the 90s here in episode 96.7.
Right. 6-7.
What's called that?
It's officially 95. It's been a bit. The last time we spoke to everybody we were talking about kiss cams and Coldplay. So, and now you fast forward to today and you've got peace in the Middle East. Yeah.
Right.
Who knew?
Right. Exactly. By the way, it is, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the Coldplay episode and encourage anybody who did not listen to it to listen to it. But we had a lot of great feedback about that episode. People jumping in with their own tales. And the concert stand behind it. So many people reach out
it did.
And they're like, man, the stand behind,
almost from the woodwork. Like there are people that I wasn't sure I was friends with anymore. And they're just because of lack of communication, to use the Rat song term. You know that song? Lack of communication.
Yeah.
Lack of.
Great 80s metal topic.
Yeah. But I just heard from people like, hey, by the way, Nubs totally right. The concert stand behind sucks. I went to it. So, you go to too many shows. We can't even like dare to cover all of them. But I went to
clarification. There is no such thing as too many shows.
Yeah. Okay. But I went to one, which I got ridiculed by my co-host for going. It was the Zach Bryant show it was in Ann Arbor, Michigan at the football stadium. Right. And now the only reason we went, I say we, because it wasn't my idea, but Mrs. Toth is obsessed with John Mayer. And look, I love John Mayer too. I think he's cool as shit. I think he's an incredible player and I'll go see John Mayer anytime. So we went for John Mayer. We stayed for 2 songs of Zach Bryant's, right? I love country, love old country. This I don't understand. It was beyond me. It was like seeing an emo. I guess it's all about the lyrics, lyrically driven. We both are, right? So, but it was like emo. It was like an emo. It was like being at a Dashboard Confessionals concert because everyone's like all proud to know the lyrics and all into. But it's like with this country backdrop. So it was like emo energy with a country backdrop. It was very strange. It was almost too much for me. Well, and we didn't get it. Yeah. And we didn't.
As I was like ripping on you for going to this, I remember you were like, it's going to be country fans, man. And I told you, I said, this is not.
It's not.
This ain't Willie Nelson, buddy. Like this is different. And
that's right.
Have you seen, he's in the headlines now because he wrote like an anti-ice song and just put it out.
Oh, God.
And he's taking a lot of criticism about this because and this is like right after you went to the show, he released or whatever, like somehow this song that's all about like anti-ice agents and raids or whatever has come out. And now he's like under harsh criticism.
Hey, you go to Ann Arbor for a few hours and you leave an activist. I hope he goes woke and goes brokes himself out, out of the deal. Cause I don't get it. But yeah, it was like this kind of strange thing, John Mayer, amazing. And then after 2 songs of this spectacle, we were like, bye. Bottom line though, saw a lot of concerts stand behind.
Oh, that show. Well, you get remember the combination. Remember we talked about this in the episode.
Yeah.
The formula that goes into the concert stand behind. One of them is you don't go to a lot of concerts.
Yeah.
And when you pack 112K into that hole in the ground.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Which, by the way, this better be the second biggest disaster that happens in that stadium this fall, with the other one coming on November 29th. And who will be there?
Yes, we will be there with lots of scarlet and lots of gray. It's funny. We actually sat in that section where you and I, too many years ago, watched the Buckeyes pummel the hometown team here.
Oh yeah, at the end,
which was one of the top 25 probably day of my life. And we were in that same section, buddy, which was interesting, but we were way down, So what I got to do is walk up like 80 rows to leave during obviously the early part of the Zach Bryant set. So I got to see concert stand behind like you read about because I had to walk up like it was like 80 rows. So I just had this almost panoramic view of concert stand behind everywhere. And it was all the more reason to get the hell out of there. You know,
I'm not proud of you for going. I'm very proud of you for leaving. That's a boss move and so that
seeing John Mayer's okay, right? You're good with that.
Yeah, but it's like not really a Mayer set. You probably saw like a kind of a.
I mean, the set list was lame. However, he's a guy. I don't care if you're seeing Dead and Co, seeing him solo, seeing his trio, any of that stuff. Just watching him play is kind of worth the price.
Such a player, such a good player.
Yeah.
So they packed 112,000 people into that hole in the ground, and it broke the record for largest concert ever in the U.S. And I feel sorry for everybody who was there.
Yeah. It was fun to leave. And it was funny. Mrs. Toph and I, all we did during the walk from the stadium to the parking lot was talk about how much we didn't understand what was happening.
Nice.
Yeah. So
that's funny. Anyway. We're just going to call the next 3 episodes, episode 6, 7. But to your point earlier, by the time we get to actually episode 96 and 97, 6, 7's already going to be outdated.
Yes. And we're closing in on 100, buddy. And we have a little something planned, don't we?
We got a little something for the centennial. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. I mean, just to make it to 100 episodes is fantastic. So anyway, kind of 2 running topics today. I'm going to let you choose your own adventure to start. Would you rather talk about reunions or would you rather talk about music videos and the power of said music videos? Which direction would you like to go in there, T?
I don't know. I don't really have my gut is not leading me in either direction. I mean,
I've been thinking of my gut for 50 years, and I now know that my guts have shit for brains.
Yeah, nice high fidelity. I guess why don't we start with music videos?
You shared before, I think, on an episode about your first encounter with hearing Nirvana, which was at the skating station in Canton, Michigan.
Yep,
and the impact that it had on you, but I want to think for a minute about your.
It stopped me clear in my roller skate tracks.
Exactly. Tell me about a music video that you saw that you remember it sort of stopping you in your non-roller skate tracks, but something that came on because as you're sort of mulling that over, this album, today's album, is really centered around an experience like that.
Right.
And it shows you when MTV was so powerful, but also when MTV did some different things.
Yeah.
Because one night on Headbangers Ball, I flipped on MTV and this unbelievable song called Pull Me Under was on with these rock and roll yet smart looking guys, all with super long dark hair, performing this incredibly intricate song compared to what else was going on at the time. And that video stopped me dead in my non-roller skate tracks. And I watched it fixated and mesmerized. And I thought, who is this band? And how do I get this CD? How do I find this album? Because I need to hear this song again. And good thing I did, because the song got good rotation on MTV, but not like ridiculous rotation on MTV. And I think I caught it sort of near the beginning of it. So tell me, was there a video that you saw or that you remember seeing that caught you and led you to a lifelong love of a certain band?
I just ferociously scribbled down 5 that just came to mind. But here's what's funny. When you mentioned we're doing this album and I realized that single was on this, I did not think of the video per se. But what I thought of immediately was that MTV used to run a promo, and I think it may have been for Headbangers Ball. It may have been for just some sort of general programming where they would show 5 seconds of 5, 6, 7, however many, 6 or 7 videos in sort of a compilation. And it was usually a little bit of variety. It's kind of like, here's what's cool about MTV. You'll get this kind of thing, this kind of thing, this kind of thing. And Pull Me Under was part of that compilation. It was just the chorus, just the hooky part. That's the first thing I thought of. and I couldn't even tell you the full video necessarily, but I sure as hell remember seeing over and over and over again that promo, which included a clip of this. As far as videos that like, we didn't talk about this beforehand. Like I just thought of like, okay, what are the ones that like were standouts to me?
Yes.
I put down one by Metallica.
Okay.
Right?
Yep. For sure.
November Rain.
Yes.
Many would say that. Christian Woman, Typo.
Okay.
One Night on Headbangers Ball, Too Late. And just being like, what is this? Been Caught Stealing, Jane's Addiction. And then actually kind of a weird one, but Only by Anthrax.
Oh yeah, with John Bush.
The John Bush. It was
boy, what an album that is. Sound of White Noise.
Amazing. Sound of White Noise. Thank you. It was that Strobe video. Totally loved it. Love that song. I don't know. Those ones come to mind.
Okay, that's a great list. Here's the only thing I would say back to that list, which is that's I think people are going to enjoy hearing those because I bet you just brought back a lot of memories for, Generation Xers that are tuning in. At least 3 of those were bands that you well knew, and maybe even songs that you knew. Typo might have been a total unknown when you saw Christian Woman. Anthrax wasn't in band name, but certainly with John Bush would have been a much different take on Anthrax and a different sound. I mean, this was a total unknown for me. I mean, it was like, who is this band? So you probably had that experience with Typo and with the Anthrax thing, maybe. Is that fair to say? Certainly more than the Metallica or the GNR.
With Typo and with Jane's Addiction, because, I wasn't like, it's not like I was listening to Nothing Shocking when I was like 9. So it was definitely the first foray into that.
Into Jane's. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
In that visual, just the vividness and strangeness of the video. Yeah. So those are probably 2 examples that fall under that.
Nice. So,
I mean, discovering a band via MTV was a very common concept around that time.
Yes. I mean, it's really not a comparison because of the scarcity of content that was on MTV, but it sort of was like the YouTube of our generation, right? Like you could actually discover things through it. It just, there weren't 10 trillion videos on MTV, which are on YouTube. So, okay, cool. That's a good way to start. And we'll get to that, but we won't get to anything, T, until we find out what albums you have been listening to and enjoying as we take episode 95 round and round. T3 albums that are spinning round. What do you got?
Well, there have been some really good releases since we last talked to everybody. Notably, the album Private Music by the Deftones. And it's okay, honestly. I loved Alms. I've kind of found something to pretty much love about all their records. This one's taken me a bit. It's a little flat, a little disappointing, but maybe, I don't know, maybe after more spins, I'll get on here one day and tell you that it's grown on me and how great it is. So great to see new music. Have you heard it?
Honestly, I haven't, which is weird because I don't know, the last couple Deftones albums I just haven't liked very much, but this one got a lot of hype.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see what you think. I mean, I don't know. I was a little bummed out, but who knows? That sometimes with the Deftones releases, it takes a bit. So maybe that's the case here. 9 Inch Nails put out the Tron Ares soundtrack. I'm going to see this movie tonight. I can't wait to see this movie and hear this soundtrack. I love the Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross soundtrack stuff that he's done in the past. Love that this is just under the 9 Inch Nails moniker, and I really like when he does this soundtrack work. So excited, a huge Tron fan, so excited to see the movie tonight. Excited for the soundtrack. It's pretty cool. So there's that. I do want to include that there was a new Sloan record, just because we've talked about them a lot based on the bestseller. I do want to include that there's a new Biffy Clyro record called Foutique, which is really friggin' good. And I just want to put those out there. So I'm actually going to mention 5, but my third has to be Buckingham Nicks, because they finally put out a CD version and a reissued vinyl and all that version
And remastered it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, it's about time, but glad to see it. So it's sort of 5 that I gave you, but I guess 3 that actually count. So that's what's round and round for me. How about you, bud?
You're always breaking the rules and round and round. You're bringing too many. You bring compilations. I mean, come on. My most recent band discovery is a band called Voyager, a prog metal band. Mm-hmm. And they're like incredible.
Very good.
These last 2 albums, like you listen to it, just like every song is like amazing. They're very dramatic and they use lots of keyboards, but very proggy. I would maybe say like prog festival rock, but I don't want to discount it. It's tremendously musical and really inspiring. It's kind of uplifting. It's this band Voyager. Just check them out. Fearless in Love is the album. That's the most recent one that I've been really listening to a lot. They're kind of extraordinary. So nice new discovery. It's so fun to continue to discover these prog bands here and there. Next would be, speaking of prog, Steven Wilson, who I recently went and saw. God, he hasn't played Detroit solo ever. And the Porcupine Tree reunion didn't come to Detroit, but he decided to play a solo show here on his tour for the album, The Overview. And that's what I've been listening to a lot. It's one song. It's 2 songs. I guess they do have 2 different names, but one song on one side, one song on the other. So very proggy, just in essence, kind of 20-minute things. The first side in particular, I think, is fantastic. But so Steven Wilson, The Overview. Lastly, you and I are going to go see Mammoth in November.
Yes, we are.
Foreshadow for a future episode. But Miles Kennedy is going to be opening up from Alter Bridge. And he put out a new album, The Art of Letting Go, with like a power trio look. It's really good. The songwriting is great. And his playing, of course, is awesome. And I just love the guy's voice. So, in fact, was that on my last run around? Did that lead us into a conversation about how much you hated the Alter Bridge show? I can't remember. Maybe we did. But anyway, it might be a repeat round around, but I've been listening to that a lot. Just kind of to support. I like supporting kind of artists that are in a band and then their band reunites with their other band and then they have to go solo. And it's a really good record. So Miles Kennedy, The Art of Letting Go. T, let's get into a little images and words as we look at Dream Theater's 1992 sophomore album, not debut. We'll get into that. On those nerdy deets done dirt cheap.
You want some dirty deeds? Yeah. You want some dirty deeds?
So Images and Words is the sophomore album from Dream Theater. It is not the debut. It's commonly mistaken by that. Mostly because the debut album, When Dream and Day Unite, flopped, and because it had a different lead singer. And so Images and Words is the first album by the incarnation of Dream Theater that most people would come to remember the band as. But technically, it's the second Dream Theater album. It was released on July 7th of 1992. T, let me just give you a little idea of other albums that were released this year, just to give you some context. Alice in Chains' Dirt was released the same year. Stone Temple Pilots' Core, Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power, REM's Automatic for the People.
We did Dirt. We did Vulgar Display.
Yeah, you're right. We did a lot of these.
Okay.
Beastie Boys' Check Your Head.
We did that.
And who can forget Eric Clapton's Unplugged?
We didn't do that, nor will we.
Right.
Booty,
just to give you the context.
Hey, let's talk about this next track, Layla. Booty, BBD.
See if you can spot this one.
See if you can spot this one. Yeah, that would not be a good episode.
So it's funny because a lot of people associate this era with grunge, but like most of the bands I just named, you get Black Crowes, Southern Harmony, are not grunge, and they're not even close to grunge, but everyone associates the time with grunge. If we are to do that, then you would say that Dream Theater came along as something completely different, being a true prog metal band that it was as influenced by Metallica as they were by Yes, Genesis and King Crimson and things like that. So 1992 is just important to keep in mind the year of this. And it also was released on a major label, Atco Records, which is a division of Atlantic. 2 singles were released, Pull Me Under and Another Day. Those are the 2 very obvious singles that you would expect. Pull Me Under is the band's only hit. It was a top 10 on the Billboard, like rock tracks. It got regular airplay on MTV, as we already talked about. So it was funny. Several years later, Dream Theater released a compilation that they called Greatest Hit and Other Favorites. So the band has always had kind of a sense of humor, the fact that like they really did only have one hit. But the reason we're still talking about Dream Theater today is because of the success of Pull Me Under. The band is James LaBrie on lead vocals. He was brand new for this album, stayed with the band throughout the duration, as did John Myung on bass and John Petrucci on guitars, well thought of as one of the best rock guitarists of all time. All of these guys were just complete masters of their instruments. The drummer is Mike Portnoy, who was kind of the face of Dream Theater for a majority of their career. Left the band very unexpectedly, sometime around 2010. I don't have that in front of me, but it was something in that era, maybe a little bit later. Left the band to like basically just do other things. Actually, it might have been more like 2015, like the middle of that decade. Just up and left the band that he had like worked his whole career to sort of build. Came back to the band last year, and they're on tour right now as a reunion tour with Mike Portnoy. And that's been a huge deal in the prog community, a gigantic deal for sure. The last member to mention left after the following album, Two Images and Words, the Awake album. That is one of my favorite musicians that nobody's ever heard of, and that is keyboardist Kevin Moore. Kevin Moore wrote Pull Me Under, as we will discuss, which a lot of people just don't know. He went on to do some really cool creative things musically, most notably his solo project called Chroma Key, which is sort of a space rock thing that I really love. And I really cherish these two albums that Dream Theater did with Kevin Moore and this lineup. It was certified gold in the US for sales of 500,000 or above. And it was certified gold in Japan. The band's always had a very special relationship with Japan. In fact, they were massive in Japan right around this time. And so did very well there, charted there very high. They were 61 on the US Billboard 200 and number 2 on the US Heatseekers chart. The band would never reach the commercial success of Images and Words again. However, their stance in prog would carry them to really quite massive heights relatively to their peers. T, that is the Images and Words story. Is there anything that you would add to it in terms of your knowledge of the album?
I read a funny story that as they were trying to eventually get the lead singer that they got for this album, they tried another guy who played one show with the band and like apparently was like showboating all over the stage and doing like some kind of like a Bruce Dickinson impression. And he yelled to the crowd, like, let me hear ya. They were playing, they're from Long Island, these guys. And at least the two that, you know, are the like lifelong members, or 3 actually. And they were playing somewhere up there. And apparently the singer that was playing their first show with the band, like yelled out the wrong city. It's like, let me hear ya, you know, Bay Beach. I'm trying to think of a Long Island sounding city, like Bay Beach. And they were really in like whatever Shores, or, you know, they were in the wrong town.
Yeah.
So my understanding is like right after that show, they fired him. So I think they tried 2 singers before they got this during the interlude for the band where before they got this one right. And it was because the guy had like this like famously disastrous like single show tenure with the band. So
that's interesting. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, these guys, it's important to note that they're all Berklee School of Music guys. That's where the band met. That's their origins, they're all like Berklee kids. So right. high levels of talent.
Berklee dropouts, actually. But
Berklee dropouts, as most are, as most that went on to
only the good ones.
Stars. Yeah, exactly. As most of them are for sure. So yeah, you got a bunch of Berklee kids that are into metal, but also into prog. And I mean, they're responsible for prog metal. They really are. You know, you look at the early influences of King Crimson and things like that, but like Dream Theater were the ones to really create this sound and take it to the masses, and Pull Me Under and Images and Words were the vehicle to do that for sure.
Queensryche.
Yeah. Fair to say. Although I think Queensryche, I don't think they were as proggy as Dream Theater. Queensryche never did like 20-minute epics and things like that. They were certainly prog metal, but I would consider them more radio friendly. Whereas Dream Theater was like, I mean, completely on the prog side for sure. But it's a good call. And Dream Theater and Queensryche was certainly around before Dream Theater was. I think
when we did the Queensryche episode, go back and listen to it. I think we sort of positioned them as the sort of godfathers, or at least one of them there's that trio that people point to, right? Dream Theater, Queensryche, and Fate's Warning are the other ones that are sort of like pointed to like the trifecta of prog metal, back in the late 80s.
Yeah, no, that's true. Fates was around long before Dream Theater for sure. Yeah, that's a good thought. Well, they certainly took it to the masses. I think that's fair to say.
Right.
Well, let's get into our own images and words, if you will, as our words now will tell our Dream Theater wondrous stories. All right, see, how did you never get into these guys?
yeah, this is going to be really short. I don't for years and years, I didn't know the difference between Queensryche and Dream Theater. I thought it was all the same stuff. I eventually, though, got the John Petrucci wah pedal made by Dunlop. They do the wah pedal signature series thing. And I own the Petrucci. So that was like, because I just like the tone of it. So that sort of got me a little interested. But I can honestly say this was the first time I listened to a Dream Theater record top to bottom. I don't know that I ever had. So I don't have much of a story other than what I mentioned earlier, which was that MTV promo, for Pull Me Under. That was, anyone who watched MTV at least knows that hook because you saw it in that commercial promo so many freaking times. But other than that, I don't really have a big connection. I've never seen them live. I am a big Haken fan now, and 2000, as recent as 2023, they were awarded the my album of the year for Fauna, and it was kind of cool to hear. Obviously, there's a lot of influence there. I don't think that's a big secret, and not just from the vantage point of like being mathy and being metal-esque, but even a lot of the sort of more oddball moments and shifts and sections that you sometimes got even 30 years ago as they were sort of pioneering a lot of this style of music. That's actually a lot of the stuff that you hear in Haken and in some of the other, you've forgotten more about prog metal than I'll ever know. But it was kind of cool to revisit this from that vantage point because clearly these guys have tremendous influence, and even if you're not that into it, demand your respect, I think. So from that standpoint, Turnagill, it was pretty cool to, I shouldn't even say revisit it, but just visit this, and looking forward to track by track. So what's your wondrous story? I bet it's much more interesting than mine.
Well, we really already told the discovery story with the Pull Me Under video, but this was a band that I think was a connection point for me and our older brother Scott, because he was a guitar player, and John Petrucci came along as like guitar god. And I remember Scotty was like really into Petrucci's playing, as many were. I think, best described that this band just became a lifelong fan. I've bought every album that they've put out on release day. Some, I've enjoyed much better than others, but I'm pretty loyal to this group, even through Mike Portnoy leaving and, the keyboardist changes. I got to see them at least twice. The first one is an interesting story. It was 1997, and I didn't get to see them on the Awake tour, but they put out a record called Falling into Infinity that it was kind of a grunge album. You could tell they were like trying to be commercial at this point. They had a new keyboardist, Derek Sherinian, and I saw them open at Pine Knob here in Metro Detroit for Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And they did like a 5-song set. They played Metropolis top to bottom. And I sat on the lawn with our mom and was just like blown away. It was like, I'm finally seeing Dream Theater. Then I got to see them on the Metropolis 2 Scenes from a Memory tour in 1999 or 2000. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe that was 2001, somewhere around there. At T, let me see if you could spot this one, to quote Eric Clapton from earlier. The rooftop venue in Pontiac, Michigan. What was it called?
The Phoenix Plaza.
The Phoenix Plaza, which is now
311. That's where I hugged Gwen Stefani. I've told that story.
Indeed, we told that story in the 311 episode. That the now completely tore down Phoenix Plaza Amphitheater, which was a very cool open air venue. It was basically a rooftop of a parking garage that just became this really interesting gathering spot for shows. So saw them, their headline that was with Jordan Rudess on keyboards, and they were, incredible, of course. And yeah, they've just become a band that like very steady following, with me being one of them. And with the reunion with Portnoy, it just felt appropriate to recognize this album and see what you think of it. Cause it's, it's rare that we can do a album that you sort of were totally unfamiliar with. So let's see what you think of it as we open up Images and Words and get into the track by track. T, let's drop that needle.
When the drum beats go like this.
Somber guitar tones open Images and Words as we get into the band's only hit and one of my absolute top 10 favorite songs of all time, with the opening, Pull Me Under. It's weird, man. Some songs sounds crazy. I've been listening to this song for, what is it now, 33 years, and I'm still like excited by it because I think it's got everything. It's got hooks. It has a powerful groove. It's super adventurous. It always keeps you interested in what's next. And I think there's a ton of emotion in it. I remember what caught me early, T, were those trigger drum sounds. This was a point of contention in the studio. The producer, Mike Prater, basically made Mike Portnoy use drum triggers. And that's like a sampled drum sound. It's of course him playing it, but playing a trigger. Looking back, it gives it this massive, almost stadium-like sound. But Pull Me Under is just a song that I will never get sick of. I think it's always thrilling. And I love every part of it.
Yeah, it's good. It's memorable from obviously the standpoint of this song. I guarantee you this song pulled, no pun intended, 95% of people who got into this band initially into it, unless they were from Long Island and they were really there from the very beginning, which most people probably weren't. So yeah, this was the MTV track. This is what pulled you in. It's super interesting. I mean, all their music, even something that's commercial, which a couple moments on this record are probably more so than everything else they ever put out, is still interesting and it's still complex. But sometimes I mentioned Haken earlier. I mean, my favorite songs are when those are complicated, but still accessible. And I think Pull Me Under does that well. Because, anybody can go out there and be like show offs and be overly technical. And there are moments of that on here with bands like this for sure. But good example here of being able to put something together that doesn't like cheapen or overly simplify your musicianship and your abilities without flexing on it so hard that it's hard to keep up with. And I think they found that sweet spot here of something that obviously was successfully commercial, brought a lot of people into the band, but it's still cool and interesting and somewhat complex from a musical standpoint. So, yep, good opener, obviously.
Well, earlier we mentioned all the other albums that came out this year. It touches a lot of different audiences. It's heavy enough to have metal fans like it. It was sort of different enough for even alternative fans to kind of get into it. Nothing felt dinosaur-y at all about this band at the time. They were really young guys. And plus it just was like, I think it had a groove to it that's what's different about this song than I think a lot of other prog metal stuff. Is like you really could like bob your head to it and like tap your foot to it. It was catchy. And a lot of that was the rhythmic elements. But to me, see, the real thing that came through was James LaBrie's vocals. You know, I remember it was a big deal. It was like, oh, they have an opera singer. You know, and yes, he's like classically trained and like opera, but his voice was really captivating. When the song breaks and he does a "What's that smell falling gives," like he is like that is like big time vocals. That is not what James Hetfield and Dave Mustaine were doing in the early 90s. So I think his vocals are a really distinct part of this. Don't you think so?
Oh, they're distinct. I think, I mean, now they're a little outdated and at times they're a little irritating, actually. But I mean, it's an element of the band. It's an element of its time. I mean, this was a time you're still in the midst of, I mean, it was on the tail end of hair metal in that sort of style of vocal presentation. So it was still kind of accepted, but I get why you go with that sort of approach with this kind of music. But I think now it sounds a little silly sometimes, to be honest with you. But I mean, the performances are amazing. The vocal ability is amazing. I mean, you don't find many people that, I don't know if it's because they're not willing to, or if it's because they can't like sing this way anymore. And there are moments on the record where it's great treatment to what's happening musically. There are moments on the record where it's a little outdated and goofy sounding. So I think it's a double-edged sword in terms of the assessment in 2025 of what is a very skilled, difficult singing voice, but one that does it always hold up and land, you know, fast forwarding 30 years later, sometimes not.
Well, it's very good points all around. I think that we need to remember, we just found this out recently with Rush, you know, who's announced that they're going to do some shows. These bands, to answer your question about like, you know, how did they sing like this at this time? These bands didn't think they'd be singing these songs for 40 more years. So when you're 22 and you can hit all those notes, you do it because it's impressive and it's stunning. There is zero thought that like, what happens when I'm 34, 44, 54 and cannot hit these registers anymore. That's why you see a lot of bands having to take the keys down on songs. James LaBrie went on to have major vocal problems. I mean, there was a good 10, 15 years of the band's career where like he couldn't sing. I mean, he couldn't pull off these songs realistically in concert. And that's because like, yeah, you do things at 22 that you can't do when you're older, and you are going to damage your voice eventually, which he absolutely did. So, you know, none of these guys thought they'd be doing this 40 years later. None of them did, but that's kind of how the market has happened. You hear that big time on a song that I don't think they would try and tackle live very often. Cause I mean, talk about something very difficult to sing, but the sort of the ballad of images and words. And that is track 2, Another Day. Beautiful song melodically. I might say Dolly Willie rule to this one just because composition wise, this could translate into so many genres. If you slowed this down and took away instrumentation, just the bass melody with the vocals on top of what the music is doing seems to be kind of gorgeous no matter what context you put it in. LaBrie is singing at the stratosphere of his range here, but what really stands out is the instrumentation. It's Petrucci's kind of dramatic guitar soloing, that layer of keyboards, certainly Portnoy's drumming with all those busy fills, kind of makes for a very interesting ballad. T, what do you think of Another Day?
Beautiful song. You know, part of why we do this is part of the kind of assessment of this is, you know, how do these things hold up? And particularly for something, I mean, yes, this is an older record, but we've done stuff in the 60s, 70s, 80s. So this is not ancient. And the vocals and the like saxophone thing just kind of ruin it. I mean, it's a.
You don't like the sax?
No.
Do you know who that is playing it? It's the saxophonist from Spyro Gyra.
Spyro Gyra. Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's silly. I think you sort of listen to it and it's hard to keep a straight face. I mean, you're right. He's hitting the stratosphere, but I'm not sure that that's always good in terms of like the way it kind of sounds now. So I would love an instrumental of this. And instead of a saxophone, let John Petrucci do his thing. I mean, good Lord. Like,
he lets a rip there in the middle though. It's a pretty amazing solo that he has.
does. It's just, I don't know. It's like, if I want to listen to the Yellow Jackets, I'll listen to the Yellow Jackets. You know?
What, saxophone doesn't belong in rock music? Broads don't belong in broadcasting?
Nice.
I mean, like,
good UHF call. I think that there's a place for it. I think that NXS has done it correctly, at times, and others have done it correctly. I think it's, again, maybe at the time it was kind of cool. I think now it sounds a little cheesy and silly. So, beautiful song and well recorded, well executed. I just, at the end, I'm kind of giggling more so than I'm appreciating because of the vocals and the alto sax. So there you go.
You're anti-sax. Track 3 is Take the Time. Maestro, you did it again. You chose the best part of the song. That is easily the best movement, don't you think? The rest of the song, like, to me is it's almost like dumb rock in a way. It felt to me like the band is like, God, what will the Metallica guys think if we don't have like a real banger on this album? But they couldn't help themselves. They had to insert this really intricate. I mean, that is some deeply prog stuff going on there, and I think it's the section of the song that stands out. Aside from it, it feels like just throwaway until you get to that part.
Yeah, anytime with these kind of groups, I mean, generally you're probably going to find a section of a song where, whether it's the musicianship flex or, sort of the intricacy or mathy element that becomes super interesting. It's like listening to Tool or anything else like that. You're probably going to be able to find some pieces that are, super cool. And that's one of them. But I agree with you. It's sort of, it's one, bit that is sort of okay, so, but that's part of the beauty of listening to prog-y stuff and prog metal in particular is you're kind of on a journey, right? So, I mean, it's kind of hard in a way to go track by track on these kind of records because it's easy to say, well, I like 1 minute of it, but I don't necessarily like the other 4 minutes and all that. So all in all, I think that's a cool section there, but I would agree with you. I think that this is one that, do I love all 8 minutes? Not really, but there's a couple pieces there, including the one we played. That's just extremely cool and shows you how skilled. I mean, these guys are obviously very, very skilled. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that.
I remember you had the observation about Dave Matthews Band pretty early on that, like, you listen to every song, there's going to be one part of the song you like. And a lot of that, your enjoyment of that does hinge on whether you like Dave Matthews sound or not. Right. But I think the concept is probably a little bit similar, that every Dream Theater track will have something in there, particularly if you're a musician, that you can at least appreciate. And if you like the sound, then you'll enjoy it for sure.
Yep, I think that's right.
Track 4 is Surrounded. Kind of your off-tempo groovy stuff here. T, what do you think of Surrounded?
I love it. When I talked earlier about like looking for or realizing as you listen to this that there's like a lot of Haken and sort of modern prog metal influences. This, I think, stands out as an example of how that's a good thing. Bands weren't doing stuff like Surrounded. So this is, to me, this is as sort of pioneering as you can be in a way that, again, pretty accessible and pretty friendly to the ear while also being very intricate. And that's where I think these guys all get it right. And this track being 5 minutes 30, I think it's the second shortest on the album besides Another Day. It's tight and compact enough to where you're not like kind of overwhelmed. Sometimes the Opus thing is cool. We'll get to it in the next track. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming. I think Surrounded kind of gets it right. You know, the beginning, listen to the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me pull this up here.
The beginning is nothing like what it becomes.
Don't you hear a little? Sometimes I wonder if I'd ever make it through this world that I found in you. I just would. Did you hear that? It's
Of course. I think, I mean,
same intro.
100%.
It's almost like, how did they get, which song came out first? Let me look, actually.
Oh, well, When I See You Smile, of course.
This is When I See You Smile, bad English.
That came out first.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was 1989. Yeah, like you almost like, how did these guys get away with that? That is a blatant ripoff. I think
because it was so short, it didn't become the hook of the song at all. It was just like an intro.
Yeah.
You know, this album was not without samples. I think three or four of the songs have samples. They sampled Public Enemy. They sampled Curtis Blow. They sampled Frank Zappa. So like, it wasn't outside of the question for this band to take a snippet from something else. It literally, I remember first hearing that, dude. Even as a kid, I was like, that really sounds like that Bad English song.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. It's good catch. I'm glad you caught that one. I've thought that for a long time. All right, the next track, Pull Me Under brought us all in. This is the song of why we're still here. It was not a hit, of course. Metropolis became sort of the central theme for the band. An album a few years later, the most beloved album by Dream Theater is Metropolis 2, Scenes from a Memory. That's considered the second part of this, which is the first Metropolis, officially known as Metropolis Part 1, The Miracle and The Sleeper. Yeah, I remember sitting on the lawn at Pine Knob watching Dream Theater play through this whole thing to an audience that in some cases were there to see Deep Purple play Smoke on the Water. Just being, what the hell is going on in this stage? And there's 17-year-old me just like, yeah, let's go, So it's their first epic that became pretty notable. It's got a lot of different movements. It is impossible for us to like sort of do a overall assessment of each part. But I guess just T, for you, that you never heard this before, like, what do you think of the flow and the sections and the overall feel of Metropolis?
Yeah, really good. Really good. And it's almost like a go big or go home moment where if you're going to do something like this, some of the theatricalness of the vocals and some of the like flex of kind of hitting some of those pinnacles from a vocal range standpoint and from a musical standpoint can suddenly turn kind of cool. And I think that that's part of what they get right here. This song kind of makes me want to explore into, certainly listen to Metropolis 2, the record, but, explore a little bit of where things would go. And I assume that some of the vocals changed and sort of like simmered down a little bit over the years, because to your earlier point, sometimes you have to from a range standpoint, but also I assume that a lot of their vocal approaches kind of modernized, in the 30 years
time.
since this, right? So
he started singing a lot lower, but again, he had so many vocal problems, James.
Right. And I think that's okay. Point is this track kind of makes you want to explore further. Like, okay, where did they take this whole idea of Metropolis? They obviously took what was part one, not a like crazy epic, but a 9-minute, sort of ride, and then turn that thematically into a full album. So it's cool. It's interesting. I like this sort of long view of how this sort of morphed into this part 2, and makes me want to listen to part 2. And I'm going to do that, buddy. I'm going to do that soon.
I think you'll like that album a lot. It is the most beloved Dream Theater album, top to bottom, for sure. What do you think just of the overall production and sound on Images and Words? Do you find it distracting that it's outdated? Do you find it charming that it's outdated? Or do you like that big giant, like I do, just like the big giant 90s production?
It's pretty slick. I mean, a lot of 90s production was loud and big, but not necessarily slick. I mean, that eventually, like with In Utero and stuff, that kind of became a dirty word in a lot of ways, and for a lot of bands around that time. So this is heavily mastered, and obviously due to the instrumentation and due to the settings that I'm sure a lot of these guys, as well above average heady musicians, wanted to go for. I mean, it was obviously going to turn into a fairly, crisp, it's a pristine production, but does that sometimes take away? It makes it very mechanical, and does it take away from the feel of it? Probably, right. And so some of the live recreations of these tracks would be interesting to kind of dive into, to sort of get a little bit more of that rawness. So, I mean, it's a little overly slick at times, not terribly surprising considering what these songs are like and how they're constructed and how they're executed. And, frankly, how you could take this type of music in 1992 and turn it into something that can sell. I mean, let's not forget, this is the age of a band that wanted to be on MTV and was sort of created in a lot of ways, or at least accelerated through MTV. Probably had a hard time getting on the radio with the length of tracks, but still wanted to make something that could sell, being their second album. That's very important. So all those things roll up to, I think, probably a fair notion that this took on a fairly meticulous and slick production. It kind of works for what they're going for. But yeah, I think if you fast forward to now, it sometimes maybe sounds a little too slick. I don't know. Does that make sense? Or
yeah, it does. I think it's that relationship between polished production and soul, right? I mean, it's hard for an album to feel like it has soul in it if it's overly pristine, to use your word, right? And this certainly flirts with that. I think you saw the band go to a much more earthy production style for the ensuing albums, for sure. All right, Images and Words starts its sort of final lap with track 6, Under a Glass Moon. Like that riff, right? It's such a great clip because you see the sort of, earlier you mentioned like showing off, and like that moment during the first part of the chorus feels like a little bit over the top, right? But the core riff of this song is like on one note. So I think part of the magic of the band is they were able to mix the simple with the absurdly complex, in some cases more complex and in some cases more absurd. Under Glass Moon is not a song that I go to a lot because it just does feel kind of over the top, but I do like the crunch and the sort of metal side of that bass riff. I do. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, to use your term, pretty dumb rocky. Even it's like, it's cool. It's fine. It sounds cool because of the double bass kick and because of the production, but ultimately it's just a, palm muted kind of chug. It's nothing crazy. But yeah, I giggled. Well, even just now when we played the clip, because, it's just kind of, it's like, okay, like what are we doing here? So yes, I think you nailed it. I think this one gets a little bit, crosses the border of being going from something that holds up well musically and is interestingly intricate and is just kind of silly.
Yeah, I mean, like your girlfriend could get through another day and surrounded. Your girlfriend ain't getting through Under Glass Moon. Like you're going to end up broken up with by the end of that song.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, you'll get dumped.
Yeah, easily. We won't spend a ton of time on the Kevin Moore penned 2-minute little ditty, Wait for Sleep, but let's do it anyway.
The ashes are up with the smoke from the fire. With wings up in heaven, or here lying.
So like super biased. I love the way Kevin Moore plays piano. I like the piano tone very much. I could have gone without a lot of the over the top sort of 10cc like keyboards and lushness that's on top of it. Might have been cool just to have it be fully stripped down. Vocally, I sort of ignore it. I just kind of pay attention to what Moore is doing with the piano, but not much going on here, right, T?
Nope. Not much to report on Wait for Sleep.
All right. Well, then let's close it up with actually
It put me to sleep. I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to wait for it.
Well, perhaps you can wake up and learn to live with the longest track on Images and Words and the closing, Learning to Live.
Kind of sounds like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, doesn't it?
I think it's interesting because you can hear why Kevin Moore probably left the band just right there, because he went on to do things a lot more spacey, a lot less like notes. I mean, clearly he has that club in his bag. And those keyboard tones, he never used those again after he left Dream Theater. They're a bit outdated, no doubt about it. It's 11 minutes long. I don't think it needs to be that long. It's an interesting closer. I wonder sequence wise if closing with Metropolis would have been more effective, but fans do love Learning to Live. And if they hear that that's on the set of a given tour, they lose their dorky collective minds. Maybe just like too excessive. T, if you broke it down to maybe 6 or 7 of the best minutes, then maybe it could have been a little bit more impactful. It's got some good moments. And I do like anything Kevin Moore plays, but maybe this is why he left the band. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, by this point, like you get halfway through this one, and you're in, that section starts, which is a little later, but you're kind of done. It's like, all right, like I understand this. I get what y'all are doing, and fans love this one. The bookends are interesting because the first is like the top 40 hit, and then the last is like a fan favorite that if you're really into this band, you're probably like loving this as a epilogue to the record. But if you're just sort of dabbling or in and out at this point, you're a little exhausted. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's 11 minutes. There's a lot going on. And I think it's probably an appropriate way to wrap this up. Do I like it or do I think it holds up well? Not necessarily.
The record is 57 minutes long, and I think it's too long in the sense that, like,
for 8 tracks, especially, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, and by the end of it, you are just a little bit, you're like burnt out a little bit by the time you get to that. And the rest of it is pretty impactful. I mean, if you had an album that was Pull Me Under Another Day, even Take the Time It Surrounded, Metropolis, like that right there is album length and really tangible. And I think you leave wanting more. And, they made Awake, the follow-up, which I love as well. And I think that's even longer, so the CD was great for a lot of reasons, but it gave bands license to make albums that were 60 minutes and eventually 80 minutes. And Dream Theater was always one of those bands that like took advantage of that, maybe until much later in their career. So I do think that the song is hard to get through in the sense that you've already heard a lot of notes.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm with you on that. All right, T. Well, let's get into our assessment phase of Images and Words from 1992. T, let's just kind of have a general conversation about its place in the music world. And, did it matter? What do you think?
It probably did matter. You got a whole genre that in many ways this album helped introduce people to or bring people in on. And for that, trying what they tried, I suppose, in 1992 is certainly intriguing and interesting, and in some ways important to the sort of landscape of commercial music and the landscape of the idea that complex music could indeed sell and could indeed bring in an audience that at one point probably would have been seen as niche, but eventually became something that could appeal to the masses. I mean, I can't think that a band like Tool would land, or, you know, bands that brought a little bit of a more methodical, mechanical approach to things would have worked if something like this wasn't introduced around this time. So I think for that, it did pave, you know, some avenues for certain bands to emerge, certain bands to not be afraid to be experimental and in some ways complex, as long as you kind of withheld your commercial ability. So for that, yeah, this probably did matter. It's an album that if you mention this band, a lot of people are going to point to. So that's in of itself, you've got a band that's figured out a way to last this long and continue to be, you know, somewhat relevant. You know, you got to hand it to them that this was a pinnacle record that created all that. Does it hold up well? I don't think so. I mean, there's too many moments where, whether it's the vocal treatments or whether it's the just musical approach or whatever. I mean, I don't necessarily like to listen to albums that are intended, and I know they have a sense of humor, you mentioned it, but ultimately this is intended to be musically serious. I don't think they're wanting people
definitely.
to, I mean, I don't think they're wanting people to giggle or like roll their eyes. And probably at the time they weren't, because it was a new thing and it was probably blowing some people's minds. Now, you know, I think you can't get through. I mean, if you and I jumped in the car and listened to this album, there'd be moments where we'd both look at each other and be like, you know, like, you know, and that's fine. There are 80 songs where that's the case and they become sort of beloved. There are plenty of songs from the 90s where that's the case, but they hold a place, or they're seen as anthemic or whatever it may be. This is a little different because sometimes it's just so over the top that it can be a little bit, you know, like you mentioned a couple of tracks prior, where it can get to that sort of absurd level. So I think it has a hard time holding up. If this is the record that got people into the band and got people to support and stay with the band up until even now, and watch them evolve and kind of be part of that, you know, journey, because these guys have a ton of talent and a ton of skill, then it's all in all a good thing. I don't think it holds up particularly well here in 2025. So what do you got? What do you think, buddy?
I think it's genre defining, or at least the beginning of something genre defining. I do think it matters. It's not, I think if you did a poll of Dream Theater fans' favorite albums, though, I don't think it would be in the top 2. I'd be surprised if it is, but it is the beginning of this genre becoming a little more mainstream. It launched their career that still goes on to this day. So sure, it matters. I think in terms of does it hold up, it to me, it's not the production, because I think if you start hammering away at like the production of something from 30 plus years ago, you're just being unfair. It's like, that was the context of the times. It's the excessiveness that stops it from holding up to a listener like you. Like if you're not a fan and trying to get through this top to bottom, it's just extremely excessive. And again, if you just removed a couple of the elements, I mean, they also had this piece, A Change of Seasons, in their back pocket. The true follow-up to this album was an EP called A Change of Seasons, which was a piece that was developed during this time. That's a 24-minute thing, and that's an amazing song. So like they had other stuff in the bag that they wanted to put out around this time, and it's like, whoa, like there's already 57 minutes of shredding and notes here. So, you know, I like what the band symbolized in terms of his genre, but yeah, in terms of like, does this album hold up as something that I would expect for your kids or my kids to put on and be able to get through? No. I think Pull Me Under and Another Day is as good of an opening as you can see in terms of two songs that are impactful, emotional, meaningful. I love those two. I think it's an incredible back-to-back. And then it just kind of gets a little exhausting for sure. All right, T. Well, with that, let's do the final cut here of Dream Theater's Images and Words. Is it on the turntable? Is it in the collection? Is it collecting dust? Or is it traveling to, I think I can guess this one, to the for sale bin? T, what do you think?
I have a new criteria for for sale bin. You want to hear it?
Let's hear it.
If somebody gave me this record for free, okay, so just here you go. Here's a copy. And if I could turn around and sell it for $50, would I? That to me is in the for sale bin, and I would do that. I would do that because I don't think you have to own this. Now, I want to go listen to Metropolis 2. I want to go dig into some of their like later stuff because I have a feeling I'm probably going to like it. And I have a feeling I'm going to like it more that this record is like in the foundation and now in sort of my realm. I think that that's a good thing. So like I said, important, got to respect it. But in terms of just like pure, do you need to own it? Not for me. I was close to collecting dust just based on the musicality, the talent, and the innovation around this time, because I do respect the hell out of that. But do I need to own this? No. And would I do the $50 sale? Probably. So
good criteria.
That's my new criteria for that. So where do you got it?
I've got Collecting Dust as an album. Pull Me Under is a extremely important song to me, and I know to many others. It's got a lot of good moments, but as an album, top to bottom, I don't usually I stop it after Metropolis, to be honest with you, and sort of wish that it ended there. I think Surrounded is strong. I mean, it's really strong up until that point. And then again, just becomes excessive. It just becomes too much. All the reasons you stated, man, I really respect what this band means. I respect what they mean to the genre, but for me, it's Collecting Dust. So I got to just a step above where you have it. I'm very excited for you to listen to Scenes from a Memory. It's an incredibly respected and loved album. And so maybe you'll bring that back on a future round and round. All right, team, before we really close up shop here, let's do 3 songs that we've been digging of late as we go in your head. What do you got?
They're still fighting with their bombs and their tanks,
with their tanks,
their guns and their
stuff
bombs
and
their tanks and their guns and their tanks.
That's funny. T, what is in your head?
Nubs, the band is called Ogre You Asshole.
Is it really?
Have you heard of these guys?
No, there's a band called Ogre You Asshole. That's amazing.
There's a Japanese band called Ogre You Asshole. Ogre. For real. So this is for real. And they're absolutely amazing. It's this sort of like, it's not really lo-fi, but it's like kind of stripped down, sort of garagey, minimalist. It's really good. Like you can tell these guys are super into like 90s music or like
they sing in Japanese.
Yes.
Okay.
In sort of like 5, 6, 7, 8s, but without the sort of like bebop part of it. Like it's super interesting. And this band is like, I don't know that anyone's ever heard of them, but please check them out. They are really freaking good, dude. Ogre You Asshole. And the song, it's the, lead track on one of their records. It's called Korakara. All their stuff's in Japanese but please check it out. They're so good. The second, I mentioned this earlier a little bit during the round and round, but Biffy Clyro, band that I love, band that I think you've, gotten into a little bit, which is awesome. Kind of power proggy pop almost in a way. Like they probably dance on festival rock a little more than you'd like, but they do have prog elements and they do have rock, just straight up rock elements that make them really, really good. And the opening track on their new record is called A Little Love. So good. Got a little waltzy kind of feel to it. And then the third is, you mentioned Steven Wilson earlier, and I mentioned Album of the Years earlier. And of course, you and I only a couple times have had the same. but we both selected Closure continuation in 2022.
Yeah.
And I was on an airplane earlier this week on Monday, and we were flying through a thunderstorm, which is not usually a good idea. And that this plane was rocking. It was really rocking around. And Harridan came on the headphones while we were battling through this kind of shitty flight. And it just put me at ease. It was like, all right, like this song's going to plow us through these clouds, going to plow us through this weather system. We're going to be fine. So there was like, you could feel like rain kind of pounding on the plane and we were bouncing all around. And it was like, party is like, why the hell did this thing ever take off? But Harridan came in, it almost sort of gave me some positive energy and some belief that we're going to get through this.
It's such a great track. Did you put on repeat? Did you listen to like a couple times during this?
Just once,
Cool.
but it came on. It was a bit divine. It came on at like I was on shuffle, and it just came on in a perfect moment. So Harridan, so good.
Nice, man. Love it.
Yeah. What is in your head with your bombs and
your tanks and your stuff?
And your things.
I just went and saw the band The Sword, the doom metal band, stoner metal, whatever you call them these days. Mm-hmm. And they played the Warp Riders album. And the opening track, Acheron / Unearthing the Orb. Just like great name for an instrumental.
Great band.
Yeah, they were fantastic. God, were they just so good, like big groovy rock and roll.
Yeah.
Really, really cool stuff. That's another band I saw recently. Your favorite, T. Chevelle, with their most recent single, Jim Jones.
Oh.
Jim Jones. In parentheses, Cowards Part 2.
Like the Reverend Jim Jones?
Dude, you would love this song. You like this might actually change your Chevelle. Just play the intro of it. Play the intro of it. Tell me what you think.
Right now?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do a little Jim Jones. Come on. Jim Jones, parentheses, Cowards Part 2.
Okay. Let me pull that up here.
Yeah, I think this might change your whole view on Chevelle. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Yeah. Let's go. Come on. What? Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. So track 2 is called Rabbit Hole Cowards Part 1.
Cowards Part 1. Yeah.
And this is Jim Jones Cowards Part 2. He's talking about the socialist San Francisco cult leader Jim Jones.
Indeed. That is indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
Great song, great show.
Yes.
And lastly, the band that I'm constantly revisiting on this podcast, because I'm doing whatever I can to spread the good word, and that is Mammoth with the song Optimist. You and I are going to see them in November.
Can't wait.
Wait.
We're going to have a great time. Thanks for inviting me, and can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. T, thanks for your images and words as we looked at Dream Theater's sophomore
Especially
album.
that image when we started the podcast, huh?
That's a good image. I'll certainly never get out of my mind.
How about that? That little keister waving around, right?
Hey, we said under a glass moon. We meant it. Emphasis on the moon part. All right, well, we will see you very soon. We got a lot of cool stuff. I got a lot of jamming guys here. A lot of cool stuff coming up as we build towards our centennial episode. Something real special for that.
We're gaining on it.
Absolutely. So thanks for tuning in, and take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And we will see you very soon on episode number 96 of Two Twins and an Album.
The Chiefs are on the warpath. Go Chiefs, go. The Chiefs are on the warpath. Go Chiefs, go. Thunder down the field and lay 'em low. Go Chiefs, go. Go Chiefs, go. Go Chiefs, go. Go bravely into battle, standing proud and tall.
That's about it. That's all we have. I hope it wasn't too disappointing. We will see you on tour. Until then, take it easy.